I helped my crush write a love letter to another guy. That was probably the dumbest thing I had ever done. And the worst part? I did it willingly. My name is Adrian Cole. I was the kind of guy people remembered when they needed something. Need help with homework? Ask Adrian. Need someone to fix the broken projector? Ask Adrian. Need someone to listen when you had a bad day? Somehow, people always found me. But when it came to being the person someone chose first, that was different. Especially when that someone was Madison Blake. Everyone at Hawthorne Ridge High knew Madison. She wasn't just pretty. Pretty was too simple. Madison was the girl who made people turn their heads when she walked into a room. She was the captain of the dance team, the top student in our grade, the person teachers trusted with important events. And somehow, she was also genuinely kind. That was what made things worse. If she had been arrogant, maybe I could have stopped liking her. But she wasn't. She remembered people's birthdays. She helped new students find classrooms. She stayed after school to clean up events even when nobody asked. She was the kind of person who made everyone feel special, including me, which was the problem, because I had started believing maybe I was special too, until the day she asked me for help. It happened after chemistry class. I was putting my books into my locker when I heard my name. Adrian? I turned around. Madison was standing there, holding a notebook. My brain immediately stopped working. Yeah? She smiled. Can I ask you something? Sure. She looked nervous. That surprised me. Madison Blake didn't get nervous. Not before speeches. Not before competitions. Not even during exams. But now, she was playing with the edge of her notebook. I need your opinion. My opinion? She nodded. Yes. I smiled. About what? She opened the notebook. And my smile disappeared. Because inside were several pages of handwritten notes. Not homework. Not a project. A letter. A love letter. I'm writing something for someone. I forced myself to look interested. That's great. She smiled. I was hoping you could help me. Those words should have made me happy. Instead, something felt wrong. Help you? She nodded. You're good with words. I laughed. I'm really not. You are. No, she smiled. You helped me write my speech last year. That was different. Why? Because it wasn't a love letter. The second I said it, she looked away. And I knew. I knew exactly what this was. Someone had her heart. Someone else. We sat in the library after school. Madison opened the notebook. Okay. She looked at me. Be honest. That sounds dangerous. She laughed. You're supposed to tell me if something sounds fake. Okay. She handed me the first page. I read, and immediately knew something. Whoever this guy was, he was important. The letter talked about his smile, his kindness, the way he made her feel safe, the way she noticed small things about him. I swallowed, because every sentence sounded like something I wanted to hear. But none of them were for me. What do you think? I looked up. It's good. Really? Yeah. She smiled. What part is your favorite? I looked back at the paper. The honest answer was, all of it. Because it sounded like the kind of letter I had secretly wished someone would write to me. Instead, I said, the part where you say he makes ordinary days better. Her eyes softened. Why? Because that's probably the best compliment someone can give. Madison smiled. You think so? Yeah. She looked down at the letter. Because that's exactly how I feel. I looked away. Because hearing her say that hurt more than I expected. Over the next few days, I helped Madison finish the letter. I helped her choose the right words. I helped her decide whether certain sentences sounded too obvious. I helped her make the perfect confession. The entire time, I pretended it didn't bother me. I pretended I wasn't wondering who the lucky guy was. I pretended I wasn't hoping she would accidentally say my name. She never did. Friday afternoon, we sat in the empty classroom. The final version of the letter was finished. Madison looked at it proudly. I think this is it. I smiled. Good. Thank you. No problem. She looked at me. Adrian. Yeah? You're really good at this. I laughed. Helping people confess their feelings? She smiled. Yes. I looked down. Maybe I just know what people want to hear. Her expression changed slightly. What about you? What? What would you want someone to say to you? I froze. That was not the question I expected. I don't know. Madison looked at me for a long moment, then smiled softly. I think you do. Before I could ask what she meant, the bell rang. She picked up the letter. I'll see you tonight. Tonight? She nodded. Yeah. I looked confused. Why? She held the letter close. Because I'm finally going to give it to him. That night, I was sitting in my room when my doorbell rang. I checked the time. Almost 10 p.m. Who would come this late? I walked downstairs, opened the door, and froze. Because standing outside my house was Madison Blake. She was holding something. A piece of paper. The same paper I had helped her write. My heart sank. Madison? She looked nervous. More nervous than I had ever seen her. Then she held out the letter. Adrian. My name sounded different when she said it. I need you to read this. I stared at the letter. Why? She took a breath. Because I wrote it for you. For almost 10 seconds, I just stood there. I stared at Madison, then at the letter in her hands, then back at Madison. My brain refused to accept what I had just heard. You wrote it for me? She nodded. Yes. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I genuinely thought I had misunderstood. Madison, I know. She looked embarrassed. That sounds impossible. Kind of. A small smile appeared on her face. Honest as always. I looked at the letter again. But why did you make me help you write it? That was the question that had been bothering me the most. If she liked me, why would she ask me to help her confess? Madison looked down. Because I was scared. Of what? She took a breath. Of you. I blinked. Me? Yes. That doesn't make sense. I know. She smiled softly. But it's true. I stepped aside. Come in. Madison walked into the living room. It was strange seeing her here. At school, Madison always looked like she belonged everywhere. On the stage, in the hallway, at every event. But standing inside my house, holding a letter she wrote for me, she looked different. Not like the perfect girl everyone admired. Just Madison. A girl who was nervous. A girl who didn't know what to say. We sat on the couch. The letter was between us. I wanted to give this to you weeks ago. I looked at her. Then why didn't you? She smiled sadly. Because every time I tried, something happened. Like what? Like you being too kind. I frowned. How is that a problem? Because it made me like you more. I froze. Madison looked away. I thought if I told you, things would change. They would. I know. She looked at me. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to lose what we already had. I didn't know what to say. Because I had spent months thinking I was the only one afraid. I thought I was the only one hiding feelings. But Madison had been doing the same thing. You really thought I would stop talking to you? She smiled. You don't understand. What? You're different. I laughed. Everyone says that. No, she shook her head. Not like that. She looked at the letter. When people find out someone likes them, they usually become different. How? They either become too confident, a pause, or they start expecting something. I nodded. And me? You never did. She smiled. That's why I was scared. I picked up the letter. Can I read it? Madison nodded. Yes. My hands felt strangely nervous. Which was ridiculous. I had helped write every word. But now those words had a completely different meaning. I opened it. The first line made my heart stop. Dear Adrian, I looked up. She looked away. I continued. The letter wasn't dramatic. It wasn't filled with huge promises. It was simple. It talked about the little things. How I always carried extra pens because someone always forgot theirs. How I stayed after school to help teachers. How I pretended not to care when people ignored my achievements. How I always listened. How I made people feel important. Then came the sentence that I remembered forever. You spend so much time making sure everyone else feels seen, but you never realize how many people see you. I stopped reading. Because suddenly, I couldn't. Madison noticed. Are you okay? I nodded. Yeah, but I wasn't. Because those words touched something I had never admitted. For years, I thought nobody noticed me. And somehow Madison had noticed everything. Why didn't you just tell me? I asked quietly. She smiled. Because you never noticed. I laughed. That's fair. I dropped hints. You did? Yes. Like what? She counted on her fingers. Remember when I asked you to help me study before the math exam? Everyone needed help. No, she smiled. I already had the highest grade in class. I stared. You didn't need help? No, then why? She looked at me. Because I wanted to spend time with you. I became quiet. Okay. And the science club event? What about it? I joined because you were there. I blinked. You hate science club meetings. I do. Then why? She smiled. Because you like them. Every memory I had seen as normal suddenly looked different. the extra conversations, the random questions, the times she sat beside me even when other seats were available. I thought those moments meant nothing, but to Madison they meant everything. The next morning, school felt completely different. Not because anyone knew. Nobody did. Only Madison and I knew the truth. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time I saw her, I remembered. The letter. The words. The fact that the girl I had secretly liked me too. During lunch, Madison sat beside me. Not across. Beside. That was something she rarely did. You're quiet. I smiled. I'm always quiet. Not like this. She looked at me. You're thinking too much. You know me too well. She smiled. I'm trying. I looked at her. Madison. Yeah? Why me? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked around the cafeteria. At all the people talking. All the groups. All the noise. Then she looked back at me. Because everyone else sees what you do. A pause. But I see who you are. Before I could respond, someone interrupted us. Madison. We turned. It was Ethan Walker, the school's basketball captain, the guy everyone thought would eventually date Madison. He smiled. Can I talk to you? Madison looked at him. About? He glanced at me, then back at her. Just something. I immediately understood. This was the kind of moment where I usually disappeared. Let people like Madison deal with people like Ethan. But before I could stand up, Madison reached over and grabbed my hand. I froze. So did Ethan. Whatever you need to say, she said calmly. You can say it here. The cafeteria suddenly felt quieter. Ethan looked surprised. Seriously? Yes. He looked at our hands. Then at me. And for the first time I realized something. Madison wasn't hiding anymore. That afternoon, before leaving school, Madison stopped me near the entrance. I have one more thing to tell you. What? She smiled. The reason I asked you to help write the letter I waited was because I wanted to know what kind of words would make you happy. My heart skipped. Why? Because I didn't want to write a letter to someone I liked. She stepped closer. I wanted to write one to someone I loved. I froze. And before I could answer, she smiled and walked away, leaving me standing there, completely speechless. After Madison told me she loved me, I spent the entire night staring at the ceiling. Not because I didn't believe her. Because I did. That was the problem. If she had been joking, it would have been easier. If she had laughed and said, I'm kidding, I could have gone back to my normal life. But she didn't. She had stood outside my house holding a letter I helped her write and told me every word was meant for me. The strangest part was not that Madison liked me. The strangest part was realizing how long she had liked me, and how completely unaware I had been. The next morning, I arrived at school earlier than usual. I needed time to think. That was impossible, because the second I opened my locker, I saw her, Madison, standing there, holding 2 drinks. I stopped. You're here early. She smiled. So are you. I'm always early. I know. I looked at the drink in her hand. Is that for me? She looked down, then smiled. Yes. I took it. Your usual. I stared. You know my order? She looked surprised. Of course. Since when? She thought about it. Since sophomore year. I laughed. That's a long time to remember something so random. Madison shook her head. It's not random. What is it then? She looked at me. It's something about you. That answer made me forget what I was going to say. Because Madison had a way of making simple things feel important. At school, things were almost normal. Almost. The difference was that now I knew. Every smile, every glance, every small action had a reason. During history class, Madison passed me a note. I opened it. Are you still thinking too much? I looked at her. She was pretending to listen to the teacher. I wrote back. Maybe. A minute later, about what? I hesitated, then wrote, about how I didn't notice. She read it. Her expression softened. Then she wrote, that's okay. I looked at the note. Then she added, I like that you didn't notice. I frowned. Why? Her answer came. Because you treated me normally. I stared at those words. And suddenly, I understood. Everyone wanted Madison because she was Madison. The beautiful girl. The talented girl. The girl everyone admired. But I had never approached her because of that. I just liked her. The person. Not the image. At lunch, things became complicated. Because someone finally noticed. Ethan Walker. The basketball captain. the guy everyone had expected Madison to date. He walked toward our table. This time, he wasn't smiling. Madison. She looked up. Ethan. I need to talk to you. She glanced at me, then back at him. You can talk here. He looked uncomfortable. Really? Yes. He took a breath. Okay. He looked at me, then said, I heard about the letter. My stomach tightened. Madison's expression changed. What? People talk. She looked annoyed. Who told you? That doesn't matter. It does. Ethan sighed. Madison, are you serious about this? She didn't hesitate. Yes. The answer came so quickly that even I was surprised. Ethan looked at her. Why? Silence. Then Madison answered. Because he makes me happy. The entire table went quiet. Ethan looked at me. Not angry. Just confused. I don't understand. Madison's expression softened. I know. And then she said something I would never forget. Because you're looking at what everyone else sees. She looked at me. But I'm looking at who he is. After Ethan left, I stayed quiet. Madison noticed. You're upset. No, yes. I sighed. You really do know me too well. She smiled. I'm learning. I looked at my lunch. Doesn't it bother you? What? People thinking you could do better. Her expression changed. Not angry. More like disappointed. Adrian. Yeah? Why do you keep saying that? I looked at her. Saying what? That I'm better than you. I opened my mouth. Then stopped. Because I didn't have an answer. Madison leaned closer. You think I like you despite who you are. A pause. But I like you because of who you are. That afternoon, Madison and I worked together on the school festival project. It was something we had done many times before. But now everything felt different. She sat beside me. Our shoulders touched. Neither of us moved away. You're quiet again. I smiled. I'm thinking. Dangerous. I laughed. About the letter. She became nervous. You didn't hate it, right? I looked at her. Madison. Yeah, that was probably the nicest thing anyone has ever written about me. Her eyes softened. Really? Yes. Why? Because you noticed things nobody else did. She looked down. That's because I was always watching. The words came out quietly. I froze. What? She immediately realized what she said. I mean, she looked embarrassed. I noticed you. I smiled. You were watching me? Her cheeks turned slightly pink. Maybe. That sounds like something the school's most popular girl would deny. She laughed. I'm serious. She looked at me. I noticed you before I knew I liked you. Then she told me something I never expected. Do you remember the first week of freshman year? I shook my head. Not really. I do. She smiled. You sat alone during lunch. I nodded. I did that a lot. I know. Again. That word. I know. You looked like you didn't care. I laughed. I definitely cared. I know that now. She smiled. But back then, I thought you were different. How? You looked peaceful. I stared. Nobody had ever described me that way. I thought. She hesitated. What? I thought maybe you were the only person in school who didn't need everyone else to tell you that you mattered. I looked away. Because the truth was the opposite. I needed it more than anyone. That evening, Madison walked me to the parking lot. Before leaving, she stopped. Adrian. Yeah? Can I ask you something? Sure. She looked nervous. Do you regret helping me write that letter? I immediately answered. No, she smiled. Even though you thought it was for someone else? I laughed. Yeah. Why? I looked at her. Because if I hadn't helped. A pause. I might never have known. She smiled. Known what? I stepped closer. That the girl I liked. I looked at her. Like me too. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Madison smiled. But before she walked away, she said something that confused me. Adrian? Yeah? I'm glad you know now. Why? Her smile became mysterious. Because tomorrow. She paused. I'm going to show everyone else. And then she left, leaving me wondering what exactly Madison Blake was planning. The next morning, I arrived at school expecting something. I just didn't know what. Madison had said, I'm going to show everyone else. Those words had been stuck in my head all night. Was she going to tell people about us? Was she going to explain the letter? Was she finally going to reveal that the person everyone thought she liked was me? I had no idea. And honestly, I was nervous. Not because I was ashamed. Because I knew what would happen. The moment people found out, everything would change. When I entered the main hallway, I immediately noticed something. People were talking. Not normal talking. The kind where everyone was looking at their phones. I walked toward my locker. Then I heard my name. Adrian. I turned. It was my friend Lucas Bennett. He looked surprised. Have you seen it? Seen what? He handed me his phone. My stomach tightened. On the screen was a post from the school's anonymous gossip page. A picture of Madison and Ethan Walker. The caption read, "Looks like the school's perfect couple is finally happening." I stared at it. For a second, I didn't understand. Then I saw the comments. Finally, they make way more sense together. Everyone knew this would happen. My chest felt heavy. Not because I believed it, because I knew what everyone else believed. Madison belonged with Ethan, the basketball captain, the popular guy, the person who matched her image. Not me. I found Madison near the student council room. She was already looking at her phone, and from her expression, I knew she had seen it. Madison. She looked up. The second she saw my face, her expression changed. No what? She shook her head. No, I frowned. No what? Don't what? Don't start believing them. I froze. Because she knew exactly what I was thinking. I'm not. You are. I looked away. She stepped closer. Adrian. Her voice softened. Look at me. I did. I don't care what a gossip page says. I know. No, she shook her head. You don't. A pause. Because if you did, you wouldn't look like you're already preparing to leave. That hit harder than I expected. Because she was right. I'm not leaving. But you're thinking about it. Silence. Again. She knew. Madison always knew. She sighed. I need you to understand something. What? Ethan is not the person I wrote that letter for. I know. No, she looked at me seriously. You know because I told you. She stepped closer. But you don't believe it. I couldn't answer. Because I didn't know how to explain the feeling. Madison had chosen me. I knew that. But sometimes knowing something and believing something were different. After school, Madison asked me to meet her in the auditorium. The same place where she had practiced her speeches. The same place where everyone saw her as perfect. When I walked inside, she was standing on the stage, holding a microphone. I stopped. What is this? She smiled. Something I should have done earlier. My heart started beating faster. Madison, wait. She looked nervous. Actually nervous. Then she turned on the microphone. And I realized. There were people in the audience. Not everyone. Just students from different clubs. Friends. Classmates. People who mattered. I looked at her. You planned this? She nodded. I did. Why? She looked at me. Because you keep thinking you're the person standing behind everyone else. A pause. I want you to understand something. Madison stepped toward the microphone. I know a lot of people have questions. Everyone became quiet, especially after the rumors today. A few people looked uncomfortable. She continued. For a long time, everyone assumed they knew who I liked. She smiled slightly. They assumed it was obvious. Her eyes moved toward me. But they were wrong. My heart stopped. Madison looked around the room. People think love is about choosing the person who looks perfect beside you. She shook her head. It isn't. Silence. It's about choosing the person who makes you feel like yourself. Then she said my name. Adrian Cole. Every person turned. I still wasn't used to that. She smiled. I want everyone here to know something. My hands tightened. The love letter everyone has been talking about. She held up the paper. The one everyone thought was written for Ethan Walker. She paused. It wasn't. The room exploded with whispers. Madison didn't stop. It was written for Adrian. For a moment, nobody reacted. Then everyone started talking. I just stood there, frozen. Because even though I knew the truth, hearing her say it in front of everyone was different. Madison walked toward me. Not quickly. Not dramatically. Just confidently. Like she had already made her choice. She stopped in front of me. I'm sorry. I looked at her. For what? For making you think you were helping me write a letter for someone else. I laughed softly. That was pretty cruel. She smiled. I know. You owe me. I do. How are you planning to repay me? She thought for a second. Then whispered, by spending a very long time proving that every word in that letter was true. Everyone was watching. But for once, I didn't feel nervous. Because Madison wasn't choosing me privately anymore. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't afraid. She was standing in front of everyone saying, this is the person I want. After everyone left, we stayed in the empty auditorium. You really did that. She smiled. Yeah. You announced it to everyone. Yes. Why? She looked at me. Because I realized something. What? I spent too long worrying about what people would think. She stepped closer. But you spent too long believing you weren't worth choosing. A pause. So I thought. She smiled. Maybe we could help each other. I laughed. That sounds unfair. Why? Because you're already perfect. Her expression immediately changed. Know what? She shook her head. I'm not. She looked at me. And I don't want you to love the perfect version of me. A softer smile appeared. I want you to love Madison. I looked at her. The girl who needs help with her laptop. She laughed. The girl who writes terrible first drafts of love letters. I smiled. Those weren't terrible. You're biased. Maybe. Before we left, Madison stopped near the door. Adrian. Yeah? I have one more thing. What? She reached into her bag and handed me something. The original letter. The one I helped write. But why give it to me? She smiled. Because now you know the truth. I opened it. At the bottom, there was a sentence I had never seen. A sentence she had hidden. I hope one day I can be brave enough to give this to him. I looked up. Madison smiled. I guess I finally was. That night, I thought everything was solved. I was wrong. Because the next morning I found something in my locker. A second letter. But this time it wasn't from Madison. I knew the moment I saw the envelope that something was wrong. It was inside my locker. No name. No signature. Just a plain white envelope sitting between my textbooks. For a second, I thought it was another message from Madison. Maybe she had written something else. Maybe she was continuing the joke. Maybe she wanted to surprise me. But when I opened it, I immediately knew it wasn't her. The handwriting was different. The first line made my heart sink. Adrian, you probably don't know who I am, but I think you deserve to know the truth. I kept reading. And with every sentence, my expression changed. The letter was about Madison. About her. About me. But not in the way I expected. Madison didn't start liking you recently. She has liked you for years. I already knew that. But then I saw the next sentence. She just never believed you would choose her. I stopped. That wasn't what I expected. I kept reading. Everyone thinks Madison Blake is confident. Everyone thinks she gets whatever she wants. But they don't know her like I do. She was scared you only saw her as someone impossible to reach. I looked at the letter again. Who wrote this? And why? At lunch, I found Madison sitting outside the library. The moment she saw my face, she knew something happened. What's wrong? I sat down. Someone left this in my locker. I handed her the letter. Her expression changed immediately. Not because she knew what it said. Because she recognized the handwriting. Who wrote this? I looked at her. You know? She was silent. Then she whispered, yes. Who? She looked down. My best friend. I frowned. Why would your best friend write this? Madison took a breath. Because she knew something I didn't. What? She looked at me. That I was more afraid of losing you than I admitted. Her words surprised me. Madison, she looked away. I know everyone thinks I'm brave. She smiled slightly. But I'm not always. I stayed quiet. I stood in front of everyone yesterday because I couldn't stand watching you doubt yourself anymore. A pause. But before that, she looked at her hands. I spent months wondering if I should say anything. Why? Because you were the only person who never expected anything from me. That answer caught me off guard. What does that mean? She looked at me. When people like me, they usually want something. She smiled sadly. They want attention. A relationship. A story they can tell. But me? You just wanted me to be happy. I thought about that. And maybe that was why everything felt different. I had never tried to win Madison. I had never thought I had a chance. I had simply liked her. Quietly. Without expecting anything. Maybe that was why she trusted me. After school, Madison asked me to walk with her. We went to the old courtyard behind the music building. A place almost nobody visited. She sat on the bench. I owe you an explanation. About the letter? She nodded. My best friend Olivia knew before I admitted it. Admitted what? That I like you. I smiled. She sounds like she knows you pretty well. She does. Madison looked down. She was the first person who noticed. How? She saw how I acted around you. I laughed. Was I that obvious? Madison smiled. No, she paused. I was. She told me things I never knew. How she saved my science project design from freshman year. How she remembered the songs I listened to because she wanted to understand my taste. How she always checked the computer lab before leaving because she knew I stayed late. How she once changed her entire schedule because she heard I had a difficult exam and wanted to wish me luck. I listened quietly, because every memory I had considered small was important to her. Can I ask you something? Madison nodded. Why didn't you tell me the first time? She thought about it. Because I was afraid. Of rejection? No, that surprised me. Then what? She looked at me. Of losing the version of us that already existed. I understood. Because I had felt the same. You were afraid I wouldn't like you back. She smiled. Not exactly. Then? I was afraid you would like the idea of me. I frowned. What? Everyone likes Madison Blake. She looked at me. But I wanted to know if you like the girl who gets nervous before speeches. A small smile appeared. The girl who secretly hates public speaking. The girl who cries during sad movies but pretends she doesn't. I laughed. You cry? Absolutely not. You're lying. She smiled. Maybe. That evening, Madison invited me to a school event, the annual winter showcase. Normally, I wouldn't have gone, but she asked. So I did. When I arrived, I found her waiting near the entrance. You came. I smiled. You invited me. She laughed. You always say that. Because it's true. She looked at me. You know what I like about that answer? What? You never make things complicated. Inside the event, something unexpected happened. The host announced a special recognition for a student who has helped countless people behind the scenes. I looked around. I didn't think much of it. Then the host said, Adrian Cole. I froze. What? Madison smiled. I looked at her. You knew? She nodded. I walked onto the stage. The entire school was watching. Again. But this time, it felt different. Because I wasn't standing there because of Madison. I was standing there because people had noticed me. The host handed me the award. Then said, sometimes the people who make the biggest difference are the ones who never ask to be seen. I looked toward Madison. She was smiling. And suddenly, I understood. She hadn't just chosen me. She had always believed in me. After the event, we stood outside. Snow was starting to fall. Madison looked up. Beautiful. I smiled. You like snow? Yes. Why? She looked at me. Because everyone stops for a moment. I laughed. That's a very Madison answer. She smiled. Is that good? It is. For a moment, we just stood there. Then she reached for my hand. Not because people were watching. Not because she wanted to prove something. Just because she wanted to. But as we walked away, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. One sentence. You should ask Madison why she never gave you the first letter. I stopped. Because I thought I knew the whole story. But apparently I didn't. I stared at the message on my phone. You should ask Madison why she never gave you the first letter. The first letter? I read it again. And suddenly, every happy thought from the night disappeared. Because there was one thing I had never questioned. The letter Madison gave me. The one she said she wrote for me. The one I helped her create. But now someone was telling me there was another one. A first one. A letter I had never seen. The next morning, I found Madison before class. She immediately noticed something was wrong. You look worried. I looked at her. Can I ask you something? Her expression became serious. Of course. I hesitated. Was there another letter? The color disappeared from her face. Not completely. Just enough. But I noticed. Because I noticed everything about her now. Who told you? That answer was enough. There was another one. Madison looked down. Yes. Why didn't I know? She was quiet. For a moment, the confident girl everyone knew disappeared. And I saw the girl who stood outside my house holding a love letter with shaking hands. Because I never finished it. Why? She looked at the hallway. At all the students walking past us. Then she whispered, because I wrote it before I was brave enough. We skipped class. Not because we wanted to break rules. Because there were some conversations that couldn't happen between bells. We went to the empty art room. The same place where Madison often worked when she needed quiet. She sat by the window. I wrote the first letter 2 years ago. I looked at her. 2 years? She nodded. Junior year. I couldn't believe it. You liked me for that long? She smiled. You really didn't notice. I laughed softly. No, I know. There was no disappointment in her voice. Just affection. I wrote it after the science fair. I remembered. The broken display. The project. The day I helped her. You kept that? She nodded. I kept everything. Everything? Not everything. She smiled. Just things that mattered. She opened her backpack, then took out a small envelope. Old. Slightly worn. My heart started beating faster. This is it. I stared. Madison, I never gave it to you. Why? She held the envelope. Because I saw you laughing with your friends that day. I frowned. And? And I realized something. What? She smiled sadly. You were happy. I didn't understand. So? I thought maybe I was being selfish. She looked at the letter. Everyone thinks being liked by someone is always a good thing. A pause. But sometimes, you're afraid. Afraid of what? Of changing something beautiful. I understood. Because that was exactly what she had feared. Losing what we already had. Can I read it? Madison looked surprised. You want to? Yes. She handed it to me. My hands felt strangely nervous. This was a letter written years ago. Before the confession. Before the party. Before she knew I felt the same. I opened it. The first line was simple. Dear Adrian, again. My name. Her handwriting. Her feelings. The letter talked about the same things. But it felt different. Because this time, I knew. She wrote these words when she had no idea if I would ever return them. It wasn't a confession expecting an answer. It was just honesty. Then I reached the final paragraph. And I stopped. I don't know if I will ever give you this letter. Maybe I'm too scared. Maybe you'll never know. But I hope one day you understand something. The reason I like you isn't because you fixed my project. It isn't because you helped me. It's because when nobody was watching, you were still kind. My vision became blurry for a second. Because those words were everything. You really felt that way? Madison smiled. I still do. I looked at her. Then why did you finally give me the second letter? She thought about it. Because you were helping me write a letter for someone else. I laughed. That sounds terrible when you say it. She smiled. I know. But why did that make you tell me? Because while you were helping me choose words for another person, she looked at me. You were describing yourself. I froze. What? She smiled softly. You kept saying things like she counted on her fingers. He should be kind. He should make someone feel safe. He should notice little things. She looked at me. Adrian, every quality you thought that person needed was already you. I didn't know what to say. Because she was right. The whole time, I thought I was helping her find the perfect guy. But she already had. She just didn't know how to tell him. After school, Madison and I walked through the hallway together. This time, people noticed. But I didn't care. Because I finally understood something. I wasn't the guy who accidentally got chosen. I was the guy she had been choosing for years. That evening, Madison invited me to the football field. The place where students usually gathered after games. But tonight, it was empty. Just us. I wanted to bring you here because she stopped. Because? She smiled. Because this is where I made the decision. What decision? To stop being afraid. I looked at her. Of me? No, she shook her head. Of being honest. She took something from her pocket. A folded piece of paper. Not the old letter. Not the new one. Something else. What is that? She smiled. A promise. I opened it. It was only one sentence. I choose Adrian Cole. Not because he is perfect. Because he is the person who makes me feel like I can be myself. I looked at her. Madison, she smiled. I know it's dramatic. No, I shook my head. It's perfect. Then she stepped closer. Can I tell you something? Yeah. I used to think the hardest part was telling you I like you. And now? She smiled. The hardest part is believing you actually like me back. I laughed. Madison. Yeah? You're the most incredible person I know. She looked away. See? What? You say things like that and then act like it's nothing. I smiled. Maybe I learned from you. For a moment, we stood there. Then Madison rested her head against my shoulder. No audience. No announcement. No proof needed. Just us. But as we left the field, I saw someone standing near the entrance. Someone watching us. Someone I recognized. Ethan Walker. And the expression on his face told me something. This story wasn't finished yet. I expected Ethan to say something. The next morning. At lunch. After school. Any moment. Because that was how things usually worked. When someone saw something they didn't like, they confronted it. Especially someone like Ethan Walker. He was the kind of person who was used to winning. The captain of the basketball team. The guy everyone cheered for. The person people expected Madison Blake to choose. but he didn't say anything. And somehow, that made me more nervous. Because silence usually meant something was coming. I found out during fourth period. The teacher had barely started class when my phone vibrated. A message. From Ethan. Ethan, can we talk after school? I stared at the screen. My first instinct was to ignore it. Not because I was afraid. Because I didn't want unnecessary drama. Madison and I had finally reached a point where everything felt right. I didn't want someone else's expectations ruining that. But before I could decide, Madison noticed. What happened? I looked up. Nothing. She gave me a look. I sighed. Ethan wants to talk. Her expression changed. Do you want me to come? The question surprised me. You would? Of course. I smiled. But I think I should handle it. Madison studied me for a moment, then nodded. Okay. A pause. But I'm still nearby. I laughed. You're protecting me? She smiled. Maybe. After school, I met Ethan near the basketball court, the place where everyone usually saw him. But today, there was no crowd. No teammates. Just him. And me. He looked uncomfortable. Which was strange. I had never seen Ethan Walker unsure of anything. Adrian. Hey. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he said, I owe you an apology. I didn't expect that. What? He looked down. Last year, I thought I understood Madison. I stayed quiet. I thought she would eventually choose someone like me. He laughed softly. Everyone thought that. That doesn't make it true. I know. He looked at me. That's what I learned. I crossed my arms. So why are you telling me this? He took a breath. Because I was wrong about you. That surprised me. About me? Yes. He nodded. I thought you were just the guy who helped people. I smiled slightly. That's not exactly wrong. No, he shook his head. That's the point. He looked toward the school. You do things because someone needs help. A pause. Not because you want people to notice. I didn't know what to say. Because those words sounded familiar. They sounded like Madison. I spent years trying to become someone Madison would choose. Ethan laughed. And then you showed up being yourself. That sounds unfair. It is. He smiled. But it's also why she picked you. For the first time, I saw Ethan differently. Not as a rival. Just another person who had misunderstood Madison. When I got home, I found Madison waiting outside. Not literally. She had texted me. Madison, come outside. I walked out. She was standing near the sidewalk. You knew? She nodded. About Ethan? Yes. How? She smiled. I know people. I laughed. Of course you do. She looked at me. Are you okay? Yeah. Really? I nodded. Actually, I think I understand him. That surprised her. You do? Yeah. I looked down. Because I spent a long time thinking I wasn't someone people would choose either. Madison's expression softened. And now? I looked at her. Now I know I was wrong. A week later, something happened that I never expected. The school held the annual spring festival. Every club participated. Every student attended. It was the biggest event of the year. And somehow Madison convinced me to join the planning team. You know I'm terrible at public events. She smiled. No, yes. You're terrible at admitting you're good at things. That's different. It isn't. During the festival, something went wrong. The main screen stopped working. Music cut off. The entire event froze. Everyone started panicking. Students looked around. Teachers searched for help. Then someone said, "Where's Adrian?" I stopped. Because for once people weren't looking past me. They were looking for me. I walked to the equipment. 5 minutes later, everything was working again. The crowd cheered. I stepped away. And then I saw Madison. She wasn't surprised. She was proud. That was somehow better. Later that night, during the closing ceremony, Madison walked onto the stage. I didn't know she was speaking. She looked at me. Then at everyone. I want to say something. The crowd became quiet. Sometimes, we spend too much time looking for people who stand out. She smiled. The loudest person. The most popular person. The person everyone already knows. A pause. But we forget something. Her eyes found mine. Some of the most important people are the ones quietly making everything better. My heart started beating faster. Because I knew where this was going. Adrian Cole is that person. Everyone looked at me. Again. But this time, I didn't want to disappear. He fixes things. She smiled. He helps people. He notices what others miss. Then she said, "But the thing I love most about him," the entire crowd went silent, "is that he never does those things because he wants applause." She looked at me. "He does them because that's who he is." I don't remember the applause afterward. I don't remember who cheered first. Because all I could see was Madison, the girl who once needed me to help write a love letter. The girl who had been afraid to tell me how she felt. The girl who now stood in front of everyone and made sure I knew I mattered. After the festival, we walked across the empty field. "You really like embarrassing me." She laughed. "I do not. You just announced my entire personality to the school. Because they needed to know." "Why?" She stopped walking. "Because I spent years watching you think you were invisible." A pause. "And I'm tired of watching you believe that." I looked at her. "You know something?" "What?" "The first time you asked me to help write that letter," she smiled. "Yes? I thought I was helping you find your perfect guy." She laughed. "I know. But I was wrong." She stepped closer. "How?" I smiled. "Because I was helping you write about me." Madison smiled. Then she took my hand. The same way she had when she first stopped hiding. And this time everyone already knew. But there was still one thing left. The final day of school. The last chance for Madison to do something she had been planning for weeks. And judging by the mysterious smile on her face, I knew it would be something I would never forget. The final day of school arrived faster than I expected. For years, I had imagined graduation as the moment everyone went their separate ways. The end of friendships. The end of routines. The end of everything familiar. But standing outside Hawthorne Ridge High that morning, I realized something. Some endings weren't really endings. Some were just the beginning of something new. Especially when you had the right person beside you. I found Madison near the front entrance. She was standing under the same tree where students always gathered before class. The same place where I had seen her 100 times before. Except now, I knew the truth. She wasn't the untouchable girl everyone admired. She was the girl who laughed at my terrible jokes. The girl who stole my snacks during study sessions. The girl who remembered every little thing about me. When she saw me, she smiled. "You're early." I smiled back. "You say that every time." "Because it's always true." I looked at her. "You have something planned, don't you?" She tried to look innocent. "No," I laughed. "You're terrible at lying." She smiled. "You learned that from me." During the morning ceremony, everyone was distracted. People were taking pictures, signing yearbooks, saying goodbye. But Madison kept looking at me, like she was waiting for something. Finally, after the ceremony ended, she found me. "Come with me." "Where?" "You'll see." I followed her across campus, to the old classroom where we had written the first draft of the love letter. The room was empty. The sunlight came through the windows. And on the desk was a notebook. I looked at Madison. "What is this?" She smiled. "Open it." I picked it up. Inside were pages. Hundreds of them. I flipped through. My eyes widened. Madison, it was filled with memories. Photos. Small notes. Little moments from the past few years. Things I had completely forgotten. The science fair. The first time we studied together. The day I fixed her laptop. The winter showcase. The spring festival. Everything. "You kept all of this?" She nodded. "Yes." "Why?" She looked at the notebook. "Because I was afraid one day we would forget how we got here." I turned another page. And there it was. A copy of the first letter. The one she wrote 2 years ago. The one she never gave me. Except this time there was something written at the bottom. A new sentence. I read it. I finally gave him this letter. And somehow, he gave me something better. I looked at her. "What's better?" She smiled. "You." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I laughed softly. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "I spent so much time helping you write a love letter." She smiled. And I thought I was helping you tell someone else how you felt." She laughed. "You really didn't notice anything?" "No," I shook my head. "Not a thing." She stepped closer. "But you do now." I looked at her. "Yeah." Madison sat on the desk. "Can I tell you something?" "Sure." "The first time I saw you," she smiled, "I didn't think I would like you." I raised an eyebrow. "Wow." She laughed. "Wait. Okay. I thought you were just quiet." "That's fair. But then I noticed something." "What?" "You were kind even when nobody was watching." She looked at me. "And I think that's why I started falling for you." I thought about everything. The letter. The laptop. The coffee. The little moments. All the things I thought were meaningless. They weren't. They were pieces of a story I didn't know I was part of. Madison. Yeah? Do you still have the original letter? She smiled. Yes. Why? She looked confused. Why wouldn't I? Because you gave it to me. She laughed. No, she shook her head. I gave you a copy. What? The original is still mine. Why? She smiled. Because it reminds me of the moment I stopped being afraid. Then she reached into her bag. She pulled out the original envelope, the one from years ago, and handed it to me. Now it's yours. I looked at it. Why? Because you helped me write my first love letter. She smiled. And you became the person I wrote it for. Outside, the graduation crowd was gathering. Everyone was taking final pictures. Madison and I walked back together, holding hands. Not because we wanted people to notice. Not because we needed to prove anything. Because that was just what we did now. Before we left school, Mason walked over. He looked at our hands, then shook his head. I still can't believe this happened. I laughed. What? He pointed at Madison. The most popular girl in school wrote a love letter, then pointed at me. And the guy who helped her write it ended up being the person she loved. Madison smiled. Sounds like a good story. Mason nodded. It is. He looked at me. Although I still think the funniest part is that Adrian was the last person to figure it out. Everyone laughed. Even me. Because he was right. Years later, people would still ask about the story. They would ask how Madison Blake, the girl everyone wanted to know, ended up with Adrian Cole, the guy nobody expected. They would say it was surprising, unexpected, impossible. But they always got one thing wrong. It wasn't about a perfect girl choosing an ordinary guy. It wasn't about someone finally noticing the person nobody saw. Because Madison never thought I was invisible. She saw me from the beginning. Before the letter. Before the confession. Before I even realized she was looking. The truth was simple. I helped my crush write a love letter to her perfect guy. I just never realized I was the guy she was writing about all along. And the best part? I didn't just get to read the letter. I got to spend the rest of my life hearing the person who wrote it tell me why every word was true. That's all for today. Remember to subscribe and support us.